Hello and welcome to Story Skeptic. So I just saw Ran. Film nerds really love this movie, and Akira Kurosawa is a really acclaimed director and had a huge influence on film. There's people who has a lot more authority or know a lot more about Akira Kurosawa and his work. This video is just a casual video where I just talk about my thoughts about the movie. Anyways, Ran is about this king that divides up his kingdom between his three sons because he's getting old. I really loved the opening, the first act of this movie. I'm not familiar with King Lear, the play that it's based on, but there's just a lot of fighting and wars and until the bitter end, and there is not really a happy ending. And it's all about this outcome of his decision. It's really epic, and I was a bit surprised that it felt this way. Like Lord of the Rings, it makes sense why that feels so epic, but I think this movie made it feel even larger than Lord of the Rings.
You don't mean that.
They're filming outside almost all the time, and we just get these beautiful scenes. This is my favorite shot, and I'm gonna break that down in another video, so just be on the outlook for that one. And it's really interesting to see how the brothers handles this situation differently, how loyal they are to their father. The one to the right there is the most hostile. He's the one that rules, and he quickly takes that power. There were two things that stuck out to me. The one thing is about the king, who is the main character. In the middle of the movie, the king goes mad because of all the violence between his sons, and because he kind of fucked up with this the honor thing, you know, when the samurais are trying to kill themselves. He can't find the sword, and he just stumble out of the burning palace, and he's just so ashamed. Let's see if we can find it. Yeah, this is the war. Every soldier of his was killed, and here you can see he's just totally a broken man. Here he comes out of the castle, just a beautiful shot. And after this, he just goes crazy. Having a main character that's crazy is quite boring, because all this time you spend with him is just like... he doesn't take any rational choices, and there's no character development within that period. So I think the way you deal with that is to change the protagonist and just have the crazy person be in the background. It gets heavy to follow a person that's lost their mind for such a long time. You're just waiting for him to snap back to it. And obviously he does at the end, and I guess there's some kind of argument to be in that despair and be in that situation with him, just to feel how frustrating it is. But it is kind of tiresome, and it demands a lot from a viewer to sit through that. Then there's my last criticism before I praise it again, and that's the battle scenes. I think, and the battle scenes are great, they're really epic, and it feels a bit like the Rohirrim. It feels large scale, and you know it's real, you know the armies are there. There's no CGI, so it's just really mind-boggling. But for example, the editing of the war scenes are typically like there are in old movies, go on for a long time, and you see like it's like they filmed stuntmen falling off their horses, and they want to have every good shot in the movie. If there comes a wave of arrows towards the horses, they don't show you like 3-4 people falling off the horse to show, oh shit, we're getting shot at. They show you like 10 or 20 people falling off horses, and it just feels like it's looping. So that can kind of be boring. And it got me thinking of something I saw Peter Jackson talk about when they made the Battle of Helm's Deep, that in screenings tests they did, they could only show like 2 to 3 shots of random orcs or elves dying before they had to show something with some story and some plot, like, or just one of the main characters doing something actively. I think that's a good general rule to follow, which older films obviously didn't. But like, look at this. It's still beautiful to look at. So back to the crazy guy. One thing I really, really liked in the movie was the soundtrack. It's a scary soundtrack played on flute. I can play some of it here. This sound is played several times throughout the movie. It's really creepy, and you get like almost a horror feeling or a feeling of dread. You know that this story is not gonna pan out well it's gonna be absolute chaos. I just like that soundtrack. After a while, the former king is crazy and is out in the field, and he gets help from his loyal assistant. They find shelter in a little farmhouse. Inside of this farmhouse, they meet a blind person who was the son of the former king, which this old king killed to get power. Obviously not a nice man to meet, but the thing that really haunted me in that scene was when that man started playing a flute, and he played that soundtrack you heard previously in the movie. That literally gave me shivers. And I thought it was so brilliant. I haven't really seen that in a movie. And him playing the soundtrack made it feel almost supernatural, like he was tapped into something larger than life, something outside the story. This meeting just makes the king go even madder. But finally, one of his sons finds him under the last big battle, and he gets back to his senses. But anyways, to modern moviegoers, this might be a bit too special, but I would recommend it anyways. You could watch it just based on the cinematography. It's just a beautiful movie, and with some patience, I think you'll have a nice experience. Just don't expect a fast-paced action war movie of today's standard. It's a lot more slow, it's a lot more thoughtful. That's it for this video, and let me know what movies you want me to break down or share my thoughts on, and I'll happily go watch them and make a video about it. Yeah, that's it for this week, and I'll see you in the next one.